In the ancient land of Eldoria, where the skies were painted in mystic hues and the forests whispered secrets of old, there lived a dragon unlike any other. His name was Zephyros. Not a beast of flame and fury, but a creature of wonder, a guardian of wisdom, and a keeper of balance. While men told tales of dragons that rained fire upon villages and hoarded gold beneath mountains, those who truly knew Zephyros spoke of something else entirely, of still waters that ran deep, of stars that remembered, of a presence that made silence feel sacred. Zephyros did not rule from a throne, nor sleep upon a hoard. He dwelled atop Mount Lyriel, a peak cloaked in silver mists and sacred air where time moved a little slower, and the earth itself hummed in tune with the breath of the world. He watched, and he listened. When rivers threatened to flood, he guided the rains elsewhere. When blight crept through the roots of the moon willow trees, he whispered healing songs into the wind. And when ancient prophecies stirred in forgotten languages, Zephyros remembered. But even peace in Eldoria is a fragile flame. One night, under a sky veiled in strange stars, an ancient darkness stirred. The constellation known as the Serpent of the Veil reappeared, a sign not seen in over 1,000 years. A warning. A herald of unraveling. Far beneath the obsidian sands of the southern deserts, the long-buried name of a forgotten god slithered through the void once more. Virax. Once worshipped in the Age of Stone as the architect of ruin, Virax had been sealed in the hollow warrens after the Sundering War. But time erodes more than stone. And in the minds of the desperate, the curious, and the power-hungry, his whispers found fertile ground. One such mind belonged to a prince named Kalan of Viremore. Kalan, born second to the throne, burned with the quiet fury of always being almost enough. Overshadowed by his brother, neglected by his father, and dismissed by his people, Kalan turned his gaze not toward conquest, but toward knowledge. Dangerous knowledge. He studied forbidden scrolls in candlelit crypts. He deciphered runes left untouched for ages. And in his pursuit of power, Kalan uncovered the myth of Zephyros, and the truth of the Heart Flame Codex, an ancient tome said to contain not only the language of dragons, but the blueprint of the world itself. Kalan believed that if he could claim the Codex, he could rewrite his fate. Disguised as a humble monk, Kalan climbed Mount Lyriel with nothing but a staff and a smile. He bowed low. He spoke softly. And Zephyros, ever patient, welcomed him with warmth. For 7 moons, Kalan lived atop the mountain. He asked questions that others feared to ask. He listened. He learned. And though his eyes glittered with hunger, Zephyros did not see it or chose not to. And then, on the final night of the red moon, Kalan struck. With a spell born of both dragon song and god speech, Kalan chained Zephyros to the roots of the mountain. The air turned still. The sky cracked. The codex pulsed with raw power. But Kalan, for all his cleverness, had not accounted for the mountain's will. The spell turned. His soul split like glass under pressure. His body was lost, and his mind was swallowed by the codex itself, imprisoned within the very knowledge he sought to control. Wounded and fading, Zephyros sealed himself in a cocoon of crystal and silence, deep within Mount Lyriel. The mists thickened. The sky above the peak turned gray. And Eldoria lost its guardian. Centuries passed. Without Zephyros, the balance frayed. The rivers ran wild and then withered. The silver groves turned to stone. Creatures once thought extinct returned, twisted and feral. Some whispered that Virex was stirring again, but no one remembered the old stories clearly. The songs were gone. The flame keepers had vanished. All but one. In a quiet village nestled in the Vale of Aloan, a child was born beneath a rare triple eclipse. Her name was Lyra. Even as an infant, she was different. Animals followed her. Winds shifted with her breath. And she saw colors and sound, as though the world were speaking to her in hidden ways. She grew up on stories, tales of dragons, of balance, of a time when the world itself had a heartbeat. Her favorite story was always the same, the sleeping flame. It was her grandmother who told it to her, with fire in her eyes and truth in her voice. One day, she'd whisper, when the last ember dims, and the world forgets its name, the flame will wake, not for power, but for hope. When Lyra turned 16, the dreams began. She saw wings, broken and bound. A voice, deep as the roots of the world, called to her. Not in words, but in sorrow, in yearning. And so, one frost-lit morning, Lyra left her village with nothing but a satchel and her grandmother's song. She was joined by 3 companions. Thorn, a ranger who had lost his homeland to the ashen fog. Myra, a rogue mage exiled for wielding forbidden light. And Kibble, a fey-born trickster who spoke in riddles and laughter. Together, they braved the whispering woods, crossed the ice-wined fens, and faced the maw of the world, the crumbling bridge that led to Mount Lyriel. At the summit, they found the cocoon. Cracked. Cold. Lyra approached it, knelt before the ancient crystal, and sang. It was not a song of spells or power. It was the lullaby her grandmother once sang beside a fire, the oldest magic of all. And something stirred. The mountain breathed. The cocoon shattered. And Zephyros opened his eyes. Time stopped. Though weak and weary, the dragon remembered the girl from his dreams. And when Lyra reached out and touched his scales, warmth returned to the mountain. The codex flickered. The world exhaled. But Virex had not been idle. Kalen, twisted and bound within the codex's memory, had merged with the god's whispers. And now, awakened by the dragon's return, he rose again, a vessel of ruin wrapped in shadow and regret. The sky blackened. The stars wept. But Eldoria did not stand idle. Lyra and Zephyros soared across the land, lighting beacons once thought dead. The dwarves of Myrden's Hollow awoke their thunder forges. The elves of Vieltherin sang the song of awakening. Even the spirits of the Vale stirred from their slumber. When the armies of shadow marched, the people stood as one. At the Valley of Echoes, they made their final stand. Zephyros flew like lightning, flame trailing behind him. Lyra rode his back, the codex glowing at her chest. Below, Thorn, Myra, and Kibble led the charge, uniting once fractured peoples into a single roar of defiance. And when Virex descended, all teeth and storm and silence, he found not a fractured realm, but a flame reborn. It was not magic alone that defeated him. It was unity. It was hope. It was love. With one final surge of light, Lyra opened the codex, not to control it, but to release it. And with a roar that shook the heavens, Zephyros cast Virex into the void once more. The silence that followed was the kind that comes only after a world is reborn. Now, Zephyros no longer slumbers. He soars across the skies, a guardian not of power, but of peace. Lyra became the first high flame keeper of the New Age, her story told in every village and city not as myth, but as memory. The codex remains, but it no longer sings to the ambitious, only to the worthy. And if ever you walk the hills of Eldoria, and feel the breeze shift just so, or hear the trees sigh in a tongue you do not know, perhaps it is Zephyros. Still watching, still remembering, still guarding the dream.